I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world. We finally beat Medicare, the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence.
It's hard to believe, but it has been a whole year since that disastrous debate. Now Republicans are ramping up their investigation into how Democrats hid former President Biden's mental decline for so very long. Hello, everyone. I am Molly Line, along with David Webb, Madison Allworth, and Jason Chaffetz. This is the Big Weekend Show. As Biden's decline was on display for the whole world to see, the closest to Biden tried to convince the country it wasn't happening. And the House Oversight Committee wants answers now. They are subpoenaing Jill Biden's longtime aide and work husband after he refused to show up to a deposition hearing. Chairman James Comer is also requesting testimony from other key players in America's biggest political cover-up, including former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, Senior Advisor in the White House Counsel's Office, Ian Sams, Senior Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates, and former Chief of Staff Jeff Zients. A long list. What they are trying to find out is how this was completely denied time and time again. Here is a reminder of how Democrats tried to run cover for Biden.
This report spends time making gratuitous and inappropriate criticisms of the president.
The stuff in this report that is capturing all of your attention right now is just wrong. It's flatly wrong. It is inappropriate. It is gratuitous. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith.
Well, very memorable. Former top Biden aide Neera Tanden is cooperating, and we're expected to hear from Biden's physician as well, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, on July 9th. Now, joining us for tonight's Big Close-Up is House Oversight Committee Chairman and Kentucky Congressman James Comer. Sir, thank you for giving us a little of your time on this Saturday night. I know it's been pretty busy there in Washington. As we talk about this cover-up, the media on the left has finally acknowledged that this occurred. Are you expecting any cooperation from the left, from the politicians, from Democrats, as this continues to go forward, depending on what you find along the way?
Well, I'll tell you, this is totally different than what I faced with the Biden influence peddling investigation. Every time we would bring someone in for a deposition, anytime new evidence would surface in the form of bank records, Democrat politicians like Jamie Raskin and Dan Goldman would go on TV and say there was no evidence, I was misrepresenting what those bank statements and those foreign wires really meant. Then the left-wing media would attack me, no evidence, their deposition was a bomb. Now we're bringing people in, and the media is not saying a word, and the Democrats aren't saying a word. We had that transcribed interview, 4 hours of Neera, and they didn't say an absolute word. They only asked questions for about 5 minutes. They know there was a cover-up. The media knows it. The Tapper book went into great detail about the cover-up, and I think they know this book by Jean-Pierre could even be more explosive than the Tapper book because it reportedly names names, whereas Tapper's book had unnamed sources. So we're going to bring all these people in, and we're going to do the American people a great service. We're going to find out who was actually calling the shots in the White House, because I think we all know that Joe Biden wasn't the one that was making the decisions, and we also want to know about the autopen. Who was given the authority to use the autopen? Did Joe Biden know what his name was being signed to? So we've got a lot of work to do, but so far we're not facing much resistance.
Chairman, you mentioned the book, and I think while there's so much strong stuff in it, like you said, the sources are not named, but you guys are calling in essentially what we imagine to be most of those sources. You alluded to this, but do we have any sense of, in terms of the autopen, what pieces may have been controlled by folks outside of Biden's orbit? Do you have any sense yet about that?
Yeah, we learned a lot from Neera Tanden in her transcribed interview. She answered all of our questions. She was the staff secretary. If you look at President Trump, anytime there's an executive order, his staff secretary is the person that stands behind him and announces what this is and what he's signing. The same was the case with President Obama. But with Joe Biden, what we learned, his staff secretary had very limited access to him. And what we learned from Neera Tanden is there was a small circle, an inner circle, that called all the shots in the Biden White House. We've gotten the names of that inner circle, and many of them have already been announced as people that we've sent letters requesting to come in, and or we're going to be sending them a subpoena to come in. But we will hear from everyone that was involved in the inner circle, because we need to know if Joe Biden's name was forged on all of these pardons, if Joe Biden's name was forged on these executive orders, because that could have a huge impact in court where many of these executive orders are going to end up.
Chairman, Jason Chaffetz here. Let's move on to the big, beautiful bill, because the House passed it. It's sitting over at the Senate. They've started that process now. And the goal that the president has is to have it on his desk by July 4th. My understanding is that the House Republicans, they had a call this afternoon to discuss some of the changes that might happen. What did you learn on that call, and where do you think we are right now in this process?
Well, we're still a long way in the process, Jason. We know the timeline. We know that this is the president's agenda. This is what he campaigned on. We know this is of the utmost importance to President Trump and to the majority of Americans who voted for President Trump. But the specific details of some of the changes with respect to Medicaid and some other things, we're still learning those. So this is a big bill. As you know, Jason, you spent a lot of time in Congress. We're still digesting all the information. The Senate, they're just now beginning the process, and you know how slow they are in the Senate, but we fully expect the Senate to pass that bill out in the next 48 hours, depending on how much Democrat obstruction there is. Then we plan on voting on the bill on either Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. So that would hopefully meet President Trump's July the 4th deadline.
Chairman David Webb here. Great to talk to you again. I get that you want to have this vote by Tuesday and Wednesday, but you've got the members of the SALT caucus, you've got other members of the House. When this comes back from the Senate, should they be successful in their passage, what will happen there? Will the SALT caucus hold the president's agenda that the American people voted for hostage to their blue state and local tax issues?
It's my understanding the SALT caucus is pretty happy. So I think they're in line. Of course, that can change. I've dealt with some of those guys, and they'll flip at the blink of an eye. But right now, I think they're in a pretty good position. With respect to the holdouts now, there are two issues that I think that are still lingering with some of the members. Mike Lee had a provision in there, I believe, to sell some federal land. There are a few Republicans out west that have some concerns about that. They haven't said they're against the bill yet. But then the big obstacle, of course, is Medicaid, and we're still trying to understand the changes that the Senate made to the House version of Medicaid. So that's probably the biggest obstacle in the House is the changes to Medicaid. But as we able to pretty much determine whether or not we'll have the votes to pass it or not. But I feel pretty good. I think that everyone in our conference knows this is what President Trump campaigned on. This is our moment. We've got to get it done, and hopefully we'll be there for the president.
Chairman Comer, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. We love your insight, and we appreciate a little inside baseball stuff we got there. We'll see what happens in the week ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.